was talking yesterday about the team meeting you guys had. He said it was one of the better ones in his coaching career. Like, what do you recall from that meeting yesterday?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a great meeting. It was nice to, just have him and the team in there, really just have a personal moment between our head coach and our players. I think having that direct line of communication, especially when everyone in there feels like they can be vulnerable and real with each other, I think that's really what's going to bring our team together. I think he knows that. I think our players know that. And it was really special to just kind of have a big reset, especially going into a bye week, just kind of bare our hearts to each other. But it was awesome.
I guess when you talk about being vulnerable with each other, like what types of things do you guys discuss?
I mean, obviously, throughout 4 games, there are plays that everyone wishes they could get back. No one's perfect. We've made some really good plays. We've made some not so great plays. But just kind of being able to, I'm not going to say vent to each other, but just being able to air out all our emotions, all of our feelings, and just really just have a direct line of communication, being able to, have players speak directly to our head coach, give their feelings, their opinions, and vice versa. That's an opportunity that not many programs get very often. And I don't know, we're just really thankful for especially Coach Sweeney and his leadership and what he brings to the table.
Was it kind of like emotional with guys crying or some of the feelings that you guys were kind of expressing to the coaches and amongst yourselves?
I mean, there were some tears shed, guys speaking from their heart. That's one thing that I really appreciate about the guys that we have in our room is, they aren't afraid to speak from their heart. I feel like it's really easy, especially in I will say profession now, that we're all in, that, you want to be this big, tough leader. You want to be a man's man, and everybody, wants to look up to everybody, but that's not real. Humans have emotions, especially, in a very emotional sport that we're in. To see the real human being side of people come out and be vulnerable with each other, that's what's going to bring us closer as a team and make us successful.
Collin, as a veteran, I'm sure you have a pretty good feel for the overall confidence of an offensive line, of an offense as a whole, of the team as well. What's your read on just the confidence of this team? Has it been shaken, and was it shaken from the beginning against LSU? And just curious for your thoughts on the overall confidence of this team.
I don't think our confidence has been shaken at all. I think the biggest thing that we've taken away so far this season is that execution's at a prime. You can have whoever you want on either side of the ball, but at the end of the day, if you aren't executing and doing what you need to do on a play-to-play basis, it's hard to be successful at the level that we're playing at.
If it's not confidence, what are some of the things that are leading to lack of execution?
I'm sorry?
If it's not confidence related, what are some of the other things that lead to the lack of execution?
As far as execution goes, I think the most important thing that you have to focus on is just being in that exact play. It's really easy. I'm speaking from personal experience. You have a play that's not so great. If you have an average mindset, it's really easy to let one play bleed into the next. You're thinking about something you did 3 plays ago, but that can't affect you in the play that you're currently in right there. It's a fresh game every single snap, and you have to approach each game that way.
Debo said yesterday, we're not going to win the national championship this year, but we can still win the rest of the season, have a good season. How do you keep people banded together knowing that, you're probably going to fall short of the ultimate goal, but there's still 8 games ahead and a good finish ahead if you want to have one?
In my opinion, when you're made of the right things, it makes it real easy. For me personally, I think of our seniors and I think of our freshmen. I think of the Tristan Lees, the Ryan Lithicums, the Walker Parks, specifically the guys in my room. And, me personally, I want to leave the best possible legacy for those guys that I can. I want to send them out in the best fashion that I can from a personal standpoint, and I believe everybody in the room does as well. And then I think of the freshmen, too. I think of Easton Wares, Braden Jacobs, those guys, and, I know that they're watching us. Being older guys and being around in the program for a while, you set a standard for yourself, and it's made very evident. I don't want to look back on this season and be known by the younger guys as a guy that quit, a guy that tapped out. I want to be a guy that they look back on and they think he never quit. He pushed through the end. He set an example for us, and he gave us momentum going into the next year.
So that mindset is kind of pervasive throughout the team. There are a lot of guys that feel that way.
Absolutely. I mean, as any team does, you have conversations with guys behind closed doors. Regardless of who's in the room, guys pour their feelings out. And, I've spoken with a lot of guys that feel the exact same way. We want to leave a legacy for ourselves. Nobody wants to just ooze out of a season and just completely rebuild from next year. Like, we want to build momentum. That's our biggest focus right now. Regardless of our circumstance, we just want to control what we can control and create momentum for ourselves.
Any questions for Collin virtually? Anybody else in the room?
When you spend all season as a team, your aspirations are obviously really high. You're thinking and talking national championship. How big of a blow is it to a team's psyche to have that sort of taken away and to be 1-3?
I wouldn't as much call it as a blow as I would a test. You know, it's really easy when you're sitting there. It's mid-July. You have the entire world in front of you. It's really easy to be motivated. It's really easy to have, all the aspirations in the world and everything's great. But, when you really get down to it and you have to push through adversity, I believe that really reveals character individually and as a team. And I believe, being in that locker room, I can firmly tell you that we're made of the right stuff. I don't think that anyone's flinched. I don't think that anyone's let our current situation get to us mentally. I think we're all just focused on our next opportunity.
Has there been a player leader kind of step forward and take kind of the place of the coaches and go, okay, we're gonna fix this?
I'd say that we have great leadership overall. I can't point to one specific guy, but I believe that overall, from the leadership standpoint that we have across our entire team, I think everyone stepped up to the plate. We realize that we're the functional piece of our team. Coaches coach, players play. That's the name of the game. So for us to step up there and really make it our own, figure out how we want to finish this season, that's been the biggest thing that I've seen out of this team.
Anybody else for Collin? All right, Collin, really appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.